Now it's time to rev up the engine. It's the Eurosport Super Racing Weekend.
Yokohama, power of performance.
Hello and welcome to Zolder.
And I come over, yeah. Can't you feel the vibe is right? For us to get it on tonight. Stop wasting time. Maybe it's the last chance to get the last dance. And I come over, yeah. Can't you feel the vibe is right? For us to get it on tonight. Stop wasting time. Maybe it's the last chance to get the last dance.
So the Eurosport Super Racing Weekends roll on across Europe from Silverstone last Sunday to Zolder in Belgium. And the former home of the Belgian Grand Prix, rebuilt and revisited. Few of the drivers have ever been here, and of those, even fewer will have seen the track in its current slightly remodified layout. It's a little bit narrow, it's a little bit twisty, it's not the fastest track you've ever seen. In fact, it'll stagger you that they even raced turbo cars here in the 80s. Never mind thinking about continuing into the 90s. But it's the venue for round 5 of Eurosport's Super Racing Weekends, and it's not raining either.
The FIA GT Championship in Eurosport's Super Racing Weekend. With lease plan, fleet management in motion. Filatice, stretching fibers, fabrics and yarns.
Yokohama, power of performance.
Well, let's get right into it with action from the FIA GT Championship. Round 5, the Super Racing Weekends will take a month layoff now until the first day of July before these cars race again in front of Eurosport's cameras, but they'll be doing the Spa 24 hours in between time. A 10-round Super Racing Weekend schedule, 11 races for the FIA drivers. Well, Zolder comes first, though, in Belgium. It's warm and dry for race day, and the championship leaders, Christophe Bouchou and Jean-Philippe Belloc, who won again at Silverstone last weekend, have failed to make it into Superpole and will start outside the top dozen. Jamie Campbell-Walter and Tom Coronel, the listed team drivers, will start on the outside of the front row of the grid because Mike Heesemans and Jeroen Bleekemolen, who are only 11th in the point standings, are on pole, beg your pardon, they're not on pole position, they're on the outside of the front row. The Lister boys behind, because it was, of course, the first ever pole position for the Raffinelli team Ferrari in Saturday's Super Pole runoff. How could I possibly have forgotten that? Goodness gracious. Disgraceful. Well, Heesemans started from pole at Silverstone, of course. The car lasted just 2.5 laps. They'll be hoping for better here. Terrian and Pescatori sharing the points lead with Riccatelli at the moment. Terrian and Pescatori's Ferrari won the last 2 races, and, well, Riccatelli won the first 2, and as you can see, they've shared the points exactly evenly between them ever since. The Ferrari, fastest of the NGT runners here again, but once more, the 77 Red Bull car right alongside them on the 4th row of the grid. So Pescatori and Riccatelli will start side by side on row 4, and it's the Ferrari and the Viper on row 1, the Lister and the first of the Belmondo Vipers, row 2. The second Belmondo Viper, Belgian Kumpen and Forney line up in that one. Car 11 on row 3 with the other orange and white Car Sport Holland machine on row 3, ahead of the NGT class leaders, Pescatori's Ferrari and Riccatelli's Porsche. But let's catch up with our pole man.
Emmanuel here on pole position. The track at Zolder, sometimes there is a problem because of the sand on the circuit. Do you think that will be a worry for you today?
I think it's a worry for everybody. It will be difficult if some cars goes outside of the line. and it's also difficult for overtaking, especially when you overtake the car from different categories that slow you down. So it will be an hard race also about this.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Well, Emanuele really gave it large in qualifying to grab Superpole, the first pole position for the Ferrari, and that will certainly give them a boost in terms of morale. The team looking for more pace, better handling, more reliability, same as everyone else pretty much, but coming on since the beginning of the season, no question about it. Gabriele Raffanelli's team very happy indeed with their progress so far, but not looking to stop here. They want to win, and win on a consistent basis. Well, that's something that the Lister team have threatened to do this season, but at Silverstone last weekend, a clash with the back marker meant that in the end, just 5 minutes from the end of the race that they were due to win, the steering finally failed and Jamie Campbell-Walter was forced to park it. Good news for Lawrence Pierce's team. The Russian-driven 59 Freisinger Porsche will not take the start. That was the car, we believe, that was involved in that incident. We just saw Belgian driver Vincent Vos being strapped into the number 12 Belmondo Viper by Boris de Richebourg. And here is the number 11 car, Anthony Kumpen, the Belgian, with Didier Defourny. And they will start on row 3 of the grid. Kumpen won in his last outing here with Marc Duez, his fellow Belgian, in the 24-hour race at Zolder last summer. So they are both race winners on this track in a nearly recent guise. Very few of the other drivers, though, have ever raced here, as we've mentioned. Well, let's catch up with our NGT poleman now.
Christian, you're going to be going for your 3rd win in a row. So far, the 2 wins that you've had, the last 2 wins, they've both been with a one-stop strategy. Will you be going for the same strategy in this race?
I think yes, the same to Silverstone and Manicos, only one stop, because this car is very fast in the race. I think only one stop is good for me.
Thank you.
So, Christian Pescatori feeling confident, and that seems to be the Ferrari's big edge. Not only its great chassis, it's also this year got a more powerful engine, anything to rival the Porsches, certainly. And it's got that added advantage of better mileage. Fuel economy may be a little bit of a tedious subject in a race car, but not, let me tell you, if you're in a race car that's got better fuel economy than your rivals. And that is very much the case with the JMB Ferrari. Now, their second car isn't here. It suffered 2 engine failures, the 63 machine. It will not start, nor will Franz and Nico Vieth's Ferrari. They tested it at an airfield on their way up here and broke their remaining transmission. That is going back home then for more work there. And no sign either, unfortunately, of the ProDrive Ferrari, so they were unable to reach a compromise with the FIA's scrutineers during the week, and they will not start here. Hopefully, ProDrive have been saying during the week, even if they need to go and source a new transmission for the car, they will reappear later this season. This is very much unstarted, never mind unfinished business for ProDrive in their Ferrari, and we hope that we will get a chance to see the car, well, next time out on June the 30th, July the 1st at the Hungaroring. Hang with the green flag, Roland Brunserrider, the FIA safety delegate, the man who is in overall charge of everything here, genuflect when you say good morning to him, and keeping an eye on the watch, making sure that everything runs exactly to time, even when it's not live for the television. Roland is one of those old-fashioned race organisers who, believe it or not, actually likes everything to go smoothly. So he flags them away for the start of the warm-up lap and led for the first time ever the FIA GTs by a Ferrari 550 Maranello out on a pace lap. Car Sport Holland machine second, the Viper orange car, then the Lister, 2 Belmondo Vipers, the second Car Sport car. Top 6 NGT cars, Tim Sugden there in 4th place in the second of those 2 Porsches. Car he shares with Steve O'Rourke. And hoping for better fortune again than last time at Silverstone. Tim was really pumped up for Silverstone, and somehow it just didn't quite happen. So Ferrari, Porsche, then the Dumez Porsche, and Sugden in 4th place. 2 more Porsches, of course, in the top half dozen. That's Babini in the 54 car, and Philip Pater back in the Orlandi Rodolfi car, the white car with the multicoloured dots all over it. little bit of a signwriter's nightmare, I imagine, when that one gets damaged. Round 5 of the championship then will be headed up by the Ferrari. Emanuele Naspetti starts. Mike Haseman starts the Car Sport Holland car. Jamie Campbell-Walter and Vincent Vos will start the cars on row 2 of the grid. Anthony Kumpen and Sebastian Bleekemolen, I beg his pardon, will be starting on row 3. Christian Pescatori and Luca Riccitelli start their respective cars at the head of NGT on row 4. Starting in 50, Sebastian Dumez. In 52, Tim Sugden, the two Porsches on row 5. Row 6 of the grid, started by Fabio Babini, 54, the Art Engineering Porsche, and Philipp Peter, the Austrian, returns in the 69 car to start that. Julian Bailey will start lister number 2, and again hoping to get to the flag this time in that car, ahead of Jean-Pierre Jarier. Christophe Bouchou, row 8. And Paul Belmondo will start the 10 car. Marc Duez starts the second Raffinelli Ferrari. Wim Dames, the Belgian, on his home track in the GLPK Viper. Luca Capagliari and Robert Dirick start their cars. Michel Neugarten and Christian Rieds, the son in that combination, start there. Alberto Radeli and Wolfgang Kaufmann start their cars. Sylvain Noël and Fabio Mancini starting in their machines. And Olivier Porter and Kurt Mollikens starting their cars. Mollikens in a brand new machine. Nigel Smith starting the 61 Freisinger car, ahead of Josef Wenck in the Coca-Cola Racing entry. Yukihiro Hane starts 58, ahead of Alex Lee, who shares with Nigel Albon. Alex Lee, the Chinese driver, in the brand new entry. And the Reiter Engineering Porsche, Michael Trunk, will start that car. That's not a Porsche, it's a Lamborghini. If you're sitting comfortably, then let's begin. Ferrari on pole in GT, Ferrari on pole in NGT. Green flags wave and they get underway at Zolder for the first lap. And already Mike Haseman's trying to put the move around the outside of the pole-sitting Ferrari of Emanuele Naspetti, but he's rebuffed. Naspetti leads into turn 2, Haseman second, Jamie Campbell-Walter third. Then it's Vincent Vos and Anthony Kumpen in the 2 Belmondo Vipers. Right behind them it's Sebastian Bleekemolen in the second Car Sport car. But where's the Ferrari? Oh, it's down to third in NGT already. It's got Julian Bailey right behind it. The Ferrari again, a tardy getaway, but look at this. Bleekemolen once more trying to make a pass. Well, 3 major chicanes around the multiple revision Zolder circuit, and there you can see Sebastian Bleekemolen yumping the car over the curbs. The Car Sport Holland machine in second place, and then back in 6th position, Julian Bailey with Jean-Pierre Jarier and Marc Duez right with him. They're past the Ferrari now. The Ferrari is down to 4th in the NGT class. Riccitelli leads. Behind him, it's Dumez, and in 3rd place in the NGT category is Tim Sugden, but Julian Bailey's on the move from further back, trying to pick up more NGT cars as he comes through, and Jarier goes off. So Jarier goes off, trying to get around Bailey as well, and here comes a change for the lead. Bleekemolen down the inside. No, Naspetti holds him off, but I wonder for how long. Emanuele Naspetti in the first lap already, rebuffing 3 determined efforts at every overtaking potential place. Naspetti forces Bleekemolen to go around the outside. I mean, Haseman's around the outside, of course. Can't do it there. Campbell-Walter still third. Kumpen and Vos, there is the order. The 2 Belmondo cars swapping their grid places, and now into the second turn. Not to be denied, the Car Sport Holland driver gets in front. Mike Haseman feels that the series owes him a race, surely after Silverstone, where he was fastest and led comfortably for the opening 2.5 laps, and then the car broke its alternator. Its alternator broke on it. Now Jamie Campbell-Walter up to second, and we're on board with the Ferrari because look, everybody is going past. The 2 Belmondo Vipers, Kumpen and Vos, also go through. Sounds clean enough. He's got the requisite number of gears, certainly for that part of the circuit as well. Wonder whether Emanuele is just taking it a little easy after the first lap and not trying to kill the tyres, or trying not to kill the tyres, perhaps. Well, Naspetti now down in 5th place, and it's Haseman's who leads. Oh, snappy camera shot from Jamie Campbell-Walter, then Kumpen, Vos. There is the Ferrari ahead of the second of the Car Sport Holland machines. And that, of course, is the father and son Bleekemolen car. Sebastian Bleekemolen starting it. Michael, his dad, and Jeroen's dad is in the pits, and Jeroen will share this car with Mike Hazemans. 2 laps in and 1.7 seconds up. Not bad, considering he was only second place on lap 1, or the end of lap 1. Then Kumpen and Voss, the Belmondo cars. NGT still being led by Luca Riccatelli. But look at the pace of Hazemans. All right, this may be a slightly more familiar circuit to him than, say, Silverstone or Monza, but really he is just hurling the Carsport car up the track. Doesn't seem to be anything wrong much with Emanuele Naspetti, does there? Wasn't in Superpole, that's for sure. But Naspetti confiding that the team really trying to get a podium here, rather than delude themselves that they are going to go out and win it. Well, they certainly made a good start by taking pole position, their first ever. So let's see if he can stay with the Vipers. Little waggle of the tail there from Vincent Voss, as you saw the Viper, the first of the Vipers in the shot, not quite getting the front end where he wanted it and having to steer it round on the throttle. The Carsport Holland Viper still behind a Ferrari here, but now you see the difference. As Voss was sloppy exiting the previous chicane, how close the Ferrari is now. Rattles it down that sequential gearbox. Now, of course, they've got one of those because it's homologated in the road car. If you have a road car, you have to have much of the original equipment still in the same manner. Well, of course, the Carsport Holland, perhaps the most highly developed of all the Vipers in the field, leading the race at the moment from Jamie Campbell-Walter in second place, and starting to stretch away now. Kumpen in third place, Voss in fourth. There is the Ferrari in fifth place, the Carsport Holland machine in sixth. And did you see Julian Bailey? I did. There he is, headlights ablaze in seventh. Duez behind him in eighth place, and I believe that was the Labra Competition Viper in ninth spot as well. Let's have a look and see if we can get another glimpse of them in the long shots. I'm not going to talk over those. It's just so wonderful to be riding on board. You could feel him easing the throttle open then. And again, feathering it through some of these corners, although they look like they've got a wide open approach and exit. Obviously, not all of them have. Still chasing those Vipers. Somebody has just got to make a PlayStation version of this, haven't they? Maybe PlayStation 2 will do it justice. You're going to have a hell of a sound system or wear your earphones in a helmet to give you these kind of noise values. As Sarah Cox might say, turn it up loud. Julian Bailey then in seventh place with Marc Duez behind him. And as you saw, the Bouchou car well up as well now. They've all managed to ease their way past the NGT runners, but the Carsport Holland Viper just driving away from Jamie Campbell-Walter. Well, what are they going to be able to do here now in this race, the Carsport Holland guys? They have threatened only to be deceived by their machinery so far this year. I wonder if they have got all the bugs ironed out this weekend. Look how close the second car is behind the tail of the Ferrari. And then you saw the second Ferrari behind Julian Bailey and ahead of Christophe Bouchou. There's the next little group. And I believe Jean-Pierre Jarry on the tail of that. Now, the NGT guys were saying they reckon it would take somewhere between 15 and maybe 16 laps for the front runners to catch them, the GT guys. Not entirely sure that's the case, but look at this. We were just on board a moment or two ago with Vincent Vos. Now the director needs to switch back to the Ferrari. Maybe he's busy planning lunch. Well, Naspetti in the middle of this little three-way squabble, but it's going to be 4 any minute because Julian Bailey is closing down on them. Vincent Vos, the stopper in the bottle here, you sense a little bit. Naspetti is still very close to Vos. Well, Vos actually not being lost too much by Kumpen, but he's holding these guys up. Naspetti could go faster, I feel. So too could Sebastian Bleekemolen. Sebastian, the younger of the Bleekemolen brothers. Julian Bailey, Marc Duez next up. Riding on board again with Vos. And listen to the much more waffly exhaust note of the V10. And we go for it down the inside with Naspetti. Oh, just a little slide under braking into the chicane. Slides wide as well, and that blocks Vos's exit onto the front stretch. Naspetti's got the place. Vos can't get it back there. And Julian Bailey also slides inside Sebastian Bleekemolen. So the Carsport Holland car goes back one as Julian goes up. So too does the Belmondo Viper there as Naspetti goes up. So that makes Naspetti 4th, Bailey 6th. And Duez still there in 8th place on the tail of that group. So Naspetti 4th, Vos 5th, Bailey 6th, Bleekemolen in 7th, and Naspetti in 8th place. There you go. And Bouchou in 9th spot in the Labre competition car. On board then with Naspetti. 6 laps in, and he's back up to 4th place, having of course started from pole position. Well, now NGT cars dead ahead, captain. And of course to these guys, they are the equivalent of icebergs. Only a fraction of the danger seen above the water level. Potentially, of course, can be very damaging to your race hopes, but you just have to make the best of it. On board again with Vincent Vos. Oh, and who was that going past him? Well, the director just cut away as he was being passed. Not perceptive, I would have to say. Hasemans leads from Campbell Walter, Kumpen in 3rd, Naspetti in 4th, Bailey in 5th. Of course, it must have been, because he was lining up Vincent Vos on the previous lap. Riding with Naspetti again, there's Kumpen's 3rd place car ahead. And Vincent Vos now down in 5th, so Julian Bailey will soon stop being a dot on the horizon and being a full-glared headlamp fixture in Naspetti's rear mirrors, and there is Bailey. Fifth place now, and of course Julian started in 13th position. He was the first of the non-Superpole runners. So again, having to find his way through the grid. The car not in fine enough fettle to get into the top dozen this time. Naspetti just having a little slide there. Let's see if he's got a bit of opposite lock correction on there. No, still nice and neat and tidy. He's clearly got plenty of grip, this car, and plenty of balance as well, if the couple of little slidey moves we've seen him pull off are anything to go by. Well, the Ferrari and the Lister seeming very square machines out on the racetrack. Don't quite seem to have the body roll that the Vipers do. Of course, with their harsher, more race-tuned sounding engine notes, the big mellifluous waffle of the Viper. Oh dear, Vos's nose really didn't want to go round there at all, having to take a second stab of it as it wallowed all over the curbs. I wonder whether that was an indication of something going astray at the front. This is our NGT leader, Luca Riccitelli, ahead of Fabio Babini. Tim Sugden in 3rd place, still the Ferrari not able to get back into this race yet, outside the top 3. Incidentally, the first of the back markers there passing the 66 car. That's the Lee and Albon Porsche. And now being caught to be lapped by its other NGT rivals. And the GLPK, or PKGL, they seem to have renamed themselves, Viper team this year for reasons that I'm not sure. The PK, incidentally, is Anthony Kumpen's dad. Just apropos of absolutely nothing. Luca Riccitelli then leading in the NGT category. And where's the second place man? You saw him through there with Tim Sugden very close behind him, actually. Riccitelli not intent on being held up by this pesky Viper. Finally has to let him through. 21 car started by Wim Dames, of course, the Belgian. And he sneaks past and holds Riccitelli up or something. Riccitelli suddenly really under threat for the lead of NGT. What's happened there then? He can't have been held up that badly, surely. Luca Riccitelli had plenty of time, looked like 2 or 3 seconds over Fabio Bobini, and now it's nothing. Sugden in third place. And the Belgian Viper behind in fourth place. The silver machine, that's the Robert Dierik-driven car. Oh, and a big slide out of the chicane by the Ferrari, ahead of Sebastian Dumes. Ferrari fourth in class, Dumes fifth in class, and I think the second Art Porsche in sixth place. That'll be Andrea Bertolini. But the Ferrari still only fourth in NGT, and Pescatore will have to keep it out of the dirt if he wants it to survive. I'm not entirely sure it'll be best pleased with that kind of handling. Well, the Ferrari has had cautious, I would say, rather than leisurely, or perhaps just unfortunate starts in the last race at Silverstone and here. Having started from the front of its class and immediately moved briskly backwards. Let's have a look again. Big slither there. And as we heard from our pole position sitter, Emanuele Naspetti, the problem with sand here is that people do tend to go off the road. Ah, there's Christian Ried, who shares the 8 Proton Porsche with his dad, and just looked a fraction there as if he was almost being skewered around the nose of Naspetti's Ferrari. Ried, of course, another GT class car, not an NGT Ferrari, it's a GT class Ferrari. That's the original Porsche built 911 GT2 car. And there is another GT class Ferrari here, number 18 machine driven by Kurt Mollikens. PSI Motorsport have built a 996, the more recent version of the flat 6 Porsche with a turbo. And that's a sort of self-engineered car which puts it into the GT category as well. Meanwhile, Hasemans leads by 2.5 seconds and a bit more from Jamie Campbell-Ward. Welcome back to Zolder, round 5 of Eurosport's Super Racing Weekends. We're in the FIA GT Championship, the early stages of the race, and it's the Car Sport Holland Viper of Mike Hasemans leading by over 3 seconds from Jamie Campbell-Walter in the number 1 Lister Storm, the reigning champion, hard on the heels of the man who came so close to taking it last year. Well, here is the third place car. Emanuele Naspetti has worked his way back up the order. And Naspetti with Julian Bailey close behind him. We're just over 10 laps into the race. And Naspetti in the fabulous sounding Maranello 550 Ferrari, starting from pole position, of course. Bailey started 13th, closing in. Marc Duez next up. He's lapped Gerald and Christian Ried's car. Then the best of the Belmondo Vipers. Now they were in 4th and 5th spot on the grid and have gradually slid back down the order. The Ferrari sliding down the order and then working its way back up. Race leader goes past NGT leader. On board with the number 12 machine driven by Vincent Voss. Onto the front straight, lining up for the left-hander to start the lap. He's got Bouchou right behind him and Jean-Pierre Jarier, 2 French drivers queuing up behind the Belgian. The Labre Competition Viper won the last race at Silverstone, of course, carrying now maximum weight. Working its Michelins very hard indeed. Jean-Pierre Jarier goes around the outside in the Art Engineering car that he shares with his former regular French GT Championship teammate Francois Lafon. And is it me, or is the Voss car very, very leisurely out of there? Let's see the sand being blown across by the breeze there as somebody has kicked it up on the outside of the circuit. Big slide from Bouchou through the chicane, crossed up. Oof, that hurt. Not the driver, but possibly the car. Really dug in deep there, didn't he? Oh, it doesn't seem to be a trail of oil from underneath, but that's always the possibility. And I don't think he's even ripped the splitter apart. That will have been a lucky escape indeed for Bouchou. Charrier's right with him, though, so that may not be that lucky for him. But let's have a look again. Whoops, oh dear, my goodness me. My eyes not quite going at the speed of that replay there. Let's not have a look again then, and let's pick up with the Belmondo Vipers, which are in trouble. On board with Naspetti. Naspetti now chasing. Ah, this is... OK, let's have another attempt to have a look at that replay. Well, he got in too fast, too hot, didn't he? Steered to correct the slide, knew he was going to go through, straightened it up to try and minimise the damage and make sure the car came out. I was going to say that as we were on board with Naspetti, he was closing up on the Muller and Trunk Lamborghini Diablo, which reappears in the championship for the first time here. Now we're on board with Mike Hasemans, our race leader. So Hasemans from Campbell Walton, Naspetti's Ferrari in third place. Hasemans absolutely flying, keeping himself over 3 seconds ahead of the Lister. And taking no prisoners in traffic. Oh, and a problem there is Julian Bailey past Naspetti. Problem for Naspetti, something flying off the front of the car. Or whatever it is flapping around in front. Oh, that's what that was. That was a wheel arch cover. There's the 61 Harbour Porsche in the gravel. That's Nigel Smith, is it? Who started that? Yes. And Naspetti with fluid coming onto the windscreen as well. He's lost the front end, hasn't he? Front end missing on the Ferrari. Porsche in the kitty litter. I wonder if there is a synchronicity between those two. Or perhaps lack of synchronicity if they have tangled. Oh dear, that's a very ugly looking mess at the front. Well, he's still got all the wheels pointing in the right direction roughly, but that will be a park it and leave it. I don't think there will be any way of replacing that car. That's what was flapping around. It was the brake ducting flapping around in our view. You can see it on the left-hand wheel, left-hand side, the right-hand side of the car, left-hand side of the picture. So Naspetti comes in, and looks as though he's been caught out by a slower car. Gabriele Raffinelli on the pit wall, I'm sure, will just allow his team to make the decision on the spot, but it's steaming, it's left liquid all over, and, well, Emanuele knows the answer to that one. He's out of the car already. And I don't think you need me to translate his body English at all, do you? Every picture tells a story, and we don't need that one. We just needed the picture of Naspetti stalking off into the garage to tell the story of what happened there. On board with Mike Hasemans, still leading the race then. 12 laps, and we've lost one of the two Ferraris. We also possibly are losing Voss's Viper. It's been into the pits. 12 laps is no time at all to be going into the pits. Their rate of progress here, well, 12 laps is not a little over 15 minutes. So Hasemans the leader then. And he seems to be doing everything right at the moment. 3.2 ahead of Campbell Walter. Bailey in third, in the second at Lister. 11 laps back from the leader, 8 from his teammate, and another 7 back is Duez in the remaining Ferrari now. Kumpen in the Belmondo Viper, Bleekemolen in the second Car Sport Holland car, back into 6th position as a result of losing Voss and Naspetti from that top 6. Naspetti, I'm sure, permanently. Voss, well, who knows, we'll wait and see. And Nigel Smith's car being towed out of the gravel there. That was very close to the racing line, and perhaps a little too close for some. This is the Belgian entry. Robert Dierik has backed it up against the wall. It's lost
Emmanuel,
the wing
you must
look.
be very disappointed. I don't think we saw it on the cameras. What happened there exactly?
It happened that I was much faster than the other car, which was another category, and I thought he was watching me. I we were in the straight, and he closed the door suddenly, and I couldn't avoid it.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Well, Emanuele obviously catching the car unawares in traffic, or just confusion over who was going where, and that's always very possible. And you'll notice that this Zolder racetrack doesn't exactly look like the wide open spaces of some Grand Prix tracks or current Grand Prix tracks, and not an awful lot of long-range visibility either coming into chicanes and out of them. So some of the drivers working hard, and as more and more grit and sand and oil and everything goes down in the corners, particularly the chicanes and out of them, I think we may see a lot more of that. So Carsport Holland Viper leading Mike Hasemans. Jamie Campbell-Walter still in second place in the Lister Storm, not allowing Hasemans to get away by too much. 3 seconds is about enough, and Jamie's keeping it roughly pegged at that. I think Hasemans perhaps now continuing to pace himself on that margin. The tow truck, the tow rope, still in that sand trap with Nigel Smith's Harbour Porsche. And based on what Emanuele has said, I think it may well have been the Harbour car which was caught out by the Ferrari, or the Ferrari which was caught out by the Harbour car. Probably a combination of the two. So Julian Bailey in third place then in the number 2 Lister Storm. This year's unlucky car, if there is one. Well, I suppose after Silverstone you could argue number 1 car is an unlucky car as well. Not having the best of good fortunes this year all round, the Lister team in this FIA Championship. But not bemoaning their lack of luck too much. They're just getting on with the job in hand. And Dirac in the 25 car, motoring on again, and the way it's sliding on the grass suggests to me that it's more than just the wing. I think he's broken the right rear corner there as well. On board in the NGT Porsche, and this I think is the 55 car of Michel Neugarten, the Perspective Racing entry, and he's, I think, 5th or 6th in the NGT class at the moment. They've moved Nigel Smith's car a little bit from that chicane. It's further out of the way now, so you'll only hit it if you're going off on the way out of the chicane. I'm sure they're going to try and tow it all the way out and either get him to a place of safety or let him go back to the pits. And Neugarten romping over the curbs. One thing about the softly sprung NGT cars is that they're not particularly keen on big curbs. There is the Perspective Racing entry. Second Art Engineering car behind him. And now in heavy traffic, Mike Hasemans, the race leader. Over the edge of the curb and onto the dirt there for Neugarten. Shares the car with Thierry Perrier, the Monegasque. Neugarten, of course, with his familiar helmet, which is the Nelson Piquet, but in turquoise, where Piquet's would be helmet would be red helmet livery. And on board again, across the start-finish line. So the NGT Porsches with that manual H pattern, or H and a bit, 5-speed kind of dogleggy gearbox. The Ferrari, though, has a sequential semi-automatic paddle shifter, because that's what glorious Ferrari 360 Modena road cars have. Well, we just saw the second RWS car. There is the lead RWS Motorsport machine, and lead in both senses, not only the quicker of the team cars, but the leader of the NGT category. It's Luca Riccitelli, and he's got Fabio Bibini right behind him. Pescatori now up to third place in the Ferrari, I notice. Well, the caption showed us earlier, but he's now closing on the leaders. Don't read captions. And is that Sugden still in 4th? I think it might be. Let's see if they hold this shot. Yes, Tim Sugden's still in 4th. 5th place, Sebastian Dumez in the NGT category. And I think that makes Michel Neugarten, who we were riding courtesy of earlier, 6th spot in the NGT class. Some little way behind this group here. So Pescatori gets himself back into contention. And there was Tim Sugden. Busy man, racing here and running his own single-seater racing team as well. Whoa, dear, Jean-Pierre Jarier getting all loose and slippery there into the chicane as he gets through traffic. Does so without damage, though. And here's Nigel Smith back in the pits. And the British driver spending a long time sitting with the heat sink building up in him and the car in that gravel trap as the race leader goes past the other Harbinger racing car. That's the number 60 machine with Sylvain Noël, the Swiss, at the helm. I don't think he's Swiss, actually, I think he's French, isn't he? Hasemans leads then by 1.4 over Campbell Walter. The gap coming down in the traffic. Bailey 9 behind, so 8 behind Campbell Walter as he was before. So therefore it's Hasemans who has been held up. Duez in 4th, Kumpen 5th, and 6th overall. It's still Sebastian Bleekemolen in the number 4 Car Sport Holland entry. So the 2 Car Sport cars, the 2 listers in the top half dozen. Ah, no, but not anymore, because as he comes across the line, Sebastian Bleekemolen has pulled off at the end of the pit straight. The Car Sport car, Sebastian at the wheel, Dad, Mike in the pit lane will be watching that go on. And it looks as though they may be out of the race. Their teammates still lead it, though. Welcome back to Zolder. There is NGT poleman Christian Pescatori off the road. He's spun the 360 Modena out of one of the chicanes, and it looks as though he's bailing out there. Well, that's 20 laps into the race, and it's all over for the NGT poleman, for the championship points leaders. Christian Pescatori and his teammate David Terrian share a 3-way lead in the NGT category, with Luca Riccitelli, the Red Bull driver, leading the race at the moment in NGT. So we're looking now at the middle portion of this 5th round of the FIA GT Championship, and as you can see here, the yellow flags waving. Looks as though Pescatori might have had a bit of a clout as he went in there. Here is our race leader. The number 3 machine is Mike Hasemans, and he is being chased by Jamie Campbell-Walter. Campbell-Walter now very close indeed behind him, and Christophe Bouchou in the Labre Viper is closing in as well. Well, Julian Bailey's in 3rd, Marc Duez 4th, Anthony Kumpen in 5th place, Jean-Pierre Jarier in 6th place in the Art Porsche. And right behind him, there is Bouchou in 7th spot. And he's got another of the Belmondo Vipers behind. And that is Paul Belmondo's number 10 machine, I think. So Bouchou taking some while to work the car up into contention. Kumpen in the 11 car is in 5th place. And some while behind him, Jean-Pierre Jarier, 20 seconds, that gap really has extended, and Jarier being chased there by the Labre car. Number 2, Lister Storm in the pits. This is 45 minutes in, and that is earlier than a Lister pit stop. Julian Bailey walking away there. The team looking at the right rear corner. We believe either a clutch or drive shaft problem sidelining the number 2 car. They haven't had much luck with that car in the last couple of races. Number 1 car still motoring on though. 45 minutes into the race. Babini taking the NGT lead, and the overall race leader, Mike Hasemans, coming in to hand over the number 3 car. He hands over to Jeroen Bleekemolen, and with lap speeds being, or lap times being so short here, it looks as though they will not just lose the lead every time they pit, the race leaders, but almost certainly lose a full lap in the process, because average lap times just about 1.5 minutes, little over in race trim. So out they come, and yes indeed they have lost a full lap, because the Lister goes past the start-finish line. Now which will be ahead when they finish their drag race? Lister at full pace, and the Car Sport Holland Viper in the pit lane. The answer is the Lister, but only just comes out ahead, but he does come out a lap ahead in the lead. An hour into the race, the number 1 Lister comes into the pits to refuel. So too does the Labre Competition Viper. So 37 laps in, and almost exactly at the 1 hour mark, In comes Jamie Campbell-Walter in now the Sol Lister Storm. Team are ready. You can see Tom Coronel there, ready with his seat to get in. It'll be tyres and fuel as well. And Coronel really determined to try and do well here. He said that before he went out for Super Pole, he had real butterflies in the stomach and he could really hear his heart thumping. He said the last time he did that was in qualifying racing in Japan in Formula Nippon a few years ago. He said he really wanted to do well here. Well, in also comes Marc Duez in the Raffinelli Ferrari, the remaining car. I remind you, as the number 5 car has exited the race, Gunther Blielinger will take over. And so now the number 3 Carsport Holland car back in the race lead, as the Lister will surely lose the lap it gained when the Carsport car started early. Back up again, says Lawrence Pierce there. Somebody let the car down when they'd only changed the rear tyres. And a long wait it must seem to these guys to get the fuel in. But you're not allowed to touch the car until you have done. Oh, and Tom fires up the Lister Storm. Away he goes. Well, he should come out ahead of the Ferrari. Ferrari now goes up, they'll do the tyre change. The Lister comes in ahead, and then in the traffic, here comes the soon-to-be race leader, or is he? Well, there is the Viper. Here comes the Lister. Yes, so the Viper goes back into the lead then after the exchange of positions on the pit stops. But the worry for the Hazelmans team is that they only managed some, well, not 3/4 of an hour with their first fuel allowance, and that really isn't enough. They need to have a little bit longer than that. Well, a long time to restart the Ferrari by Gunther Blielinger, but eventually it gets going again. They're back in the race and still hunting around for podium position. So the Carsport Holland car leading almost from the word go. Took a lap and a bit for Mike Hazelmans to get past the pole-sitting Ferrari, and they've led almost ever since. Lost the lead when they pitted early, and a potential question mark hanging over them. We've seen that the car's fueling system has a propensity to slightly go awry, and we'll have to wait and see. Incidentally there, the pale blue car, that is the 996 Turbo, the GT spec Porsche Turbo, not an NGT car. And that's been started by F3000 ace Kurt Mollikens. And in comes the Carsport Holland car, and that is into the pits again for its second stop. Well, the Carsport Holland car, in fact, not coming into the pits there at all, catching me completely by surprise as he took a late line into the corner, but under pressure for the race lead. And Jamie Campbell-Walter dives in front, an hour and 10 minutes into the race. Blake Amolin, not even Jamie Campbell-Walter, in fact, Tom Coronel, of course, having taken over, and Blake Amolin having taken over from Hazelmans in, well, into the middle, in fact, probably into the later part of his stint. Now an hour and 10 minutes in, the Lister having taken the lead, motoring on, and by 75 laps it was back into the pits, this time for a scheduled stop. And again, the Lister team doing a good, strong job. Nice, efficient pit stop. Lawrence Pierce, a firm believer in details like that, winning you races. But on the way out, Jamie Campbell-Walter hitting an errant wheel and tyre sitting in the pit lane. Now, it wasn't their own teams, and I have to say, I'm not aware what the penalty may or may not be. There may be no penalty at all. There may be a penalty attached to that. You just saw Jarrier getting going. Here is the Orlando Rodolfi car in the barriers. Oh dear, and the 21 Viper rocking over the curbs there as well. 24 car, rather, the Racing Box Viper. But I wonder if the 69 car had gone off beforehand. Philip Pater, the driver who started that car that he shares with Joel Kamathias. Kamathias parking it in the end and walking away. And look at the muck and rubbish all over the racetrack. Let's have a look again at this. Well, that's certainly not a Lister tyre. That may be in the... not sure whose garage that would be, right next door to Lister or a couple away. Whatever. The Lister taking the lead from the number 3 car. And Jeroen Bleekemolen bringing the Carsport Holland Viper into the pits. A 10-second stop and go. And the reason for this is that he started the engine while the car was still on the jacks. Now, he was told to switch the engine off, but in French there you heard Toine Heisman saying, no, it's not working, it doesn't work. Basically, I'm not sure that the car was able to restart under its own... not that it wasn't unable to restart during the pit stop, but normally if a car is started with the wheels in the air, it means they've lost the clutch and they're having to start it in gear, which is obviously a lot easier if the wheels aren't attached to the deck. So, again, not entirely sure on that. Mike Heisman's, though, on the radio, talking, and Sebastian drops down to 4th place. It's Bouchou in 2nd place, Duez in 3rd, but after 98 laps, the Lister into the pits, being topped up with oil. It's guzzling the stuff. And the number 7 Viper, having slowly but surely, tortoise and hare-like, worked its way up the order, is now in the lead. As Jamie comes back out in 2nd place, Marc Duez 3rd in the Ferrari, building towards a real climax now. Welcome back to Zolder, the closing stages of round 5 of the FIA GT Championship. 105 laps in, Christophe Bouchou leads in the Labre competition Viper from Jamie Campbell-Walter. And this battle, this is for 3rd, Marc Duez in the Raffinelli Ferrari and young Jeroen Bleekemolen in the Carsport Holland Viper. This is for the final podium position. And it's been a close battle for the last half dozen laps. The Viper suffering a stop-and-go penalty for starting the engine while the car was still in the air. And I believe that's probably because they'd lost the clutch. Well, Duez there fighting back as Bleekemolen tried to make the pass, redolent of the, or reminiscent perhaps, of the first lap when Mike Heisman's in the car was desperately trying to take the lead away from Emanuele Naspetti in the other Raffinelli Ferrari. So Christophe Bouchou out front since the Lister Storm has made 2 pit stops for oil after its regular scheduled stops. And clearly the Jaguar-based V12 that the Lister is powered by is consuming oil at a fairly ferocious rate. All the engines built in Leatherhead by the Lister team themselves. They do pretty much everything on the car that it's possible to do, and they will know the best way to manage that problem. I'm sure it's leaving him with a bit of a horsepower deficit to the Labre competition Viper. Now that car is as near standard as most of the race, or probably more than many of the racing Vipers in this championship, the Labre car, and it's carrying full weight penalty from having won twice now, but still it's leading the race from Jamie Campbell-Walter. This battle's some way behind. The leaders, I don't think, in any danger of being caught by these guys, but Jeroen Bleekemolen has been given the give it full gas signals by Mike Heisman, his co-driver, and the team on the pit wall egging him on in this great battle with the Ferrari. Duez in 3rd place, the Belgian, and Bleekemolen right behind him, the Dutchman. And here is our 2nd place man, Jamie Campbell-Walter, having taken over from his Dutch co-driver, Tom Coronel, in the 3rd stint of the car. Slips inside the Coca-Cola Porsche. And you can see not only has dirt and gravel, sand been taken out of the sand traps, but even some of those big tyre bales have been thumped by a few errant drivers as they've scrabbled through. And you can really see the surface is fairly filthy now a lot of the way around the track. Look at the amount of just sand on the exit there. If you come a little wide offline, never mind getting onto the marbles, you have to cross the beach first. Well, young Jeroen Bleekemolen doing a great job here. Marc Duez, very experienced race and rally driver. He's done racing, rallying, rallycross. Sure, he's done ice racing as well, and all of that loose surface experience, bizarrely enough, is actually, I think, helping him here. He's handling those slides nicely, but really you have to suspect that the tyres on the Ferrari are really at an end. And look at that, he's almost in trouble, almost in the sand. Oh, just gathers it up, but only just. And no problem at all there for Bleekemolen to slide down the inside neatly into third. Don't watch the Viper, watch the Ferrari. That's a great save from Duez, in all sorts of trouble as the tyres just won't stop the car, and the brakes are getting the tails stepping out on him. Gets into that loose, gravelly, sandy, rubbery rubbish out there, and somehow still keeps it all together. So, Bleekemolen back into third place then, despite his stop-and-go penalty. And, whew, Dad breathes a sigh of relief. He's watched that one on the monitor. That was Michael. And he's already seen his car retire, that Sebastian was driving early on in the race before the first hour was up. Now then, Jamie Campbell-Walter in second place. Oh, there's Bouchou! Very much closer than before. Can't be, let's see, second and a half maybe between us. They come under the shadows. Yeah, maybe. So that is very close indeed. There is our NGT class leader, Riccatelli's Porsche, that he is sharing with Andrea Boldrini this weekend. And after their 2 pit stops, Riccatelli back in it. Boldrini, incidentally, has been a long-time friend of Riccatelli. So long, they met when they were both racing each other when they were 8 years old, and that's how long. Stefano Ortelli in second place, and that's a good, strong race from that car he shares with Wolfgang Kaufmann, the Freisinger Motorsport Porsche, which was out so early at Silverstone and has had a really luck-free season this season. In second spot in NGT. Now let's have a look at Bouchou. Look at the way he's... Yeah, there's no smooth line through that corner at all. He's just dragging the car around, wrenching the steering wheel to get it through the corner. It's wearing its tyres because of that extra weight, even more than the Lister is. And Jamie Campbell-Walter closing fast. Now then, third place, perhaps still under discussion. I think maybe the lead might be as well. Jamie seems able to close almost at will on the Labra Viper ahead. Nice slide there from Duez as well, exiting the chicane. He hasn't given up, has he? Young whippersnapper in front. I've got to get him with my Ferrari. And again, Jamie has closed down the gap once more. So clearly there is a problem with the Lister, and it's not to do with getting around the corners. Now there you go. I think we've got a Viper here with a strong power unit. Yes, look at the way he's pulling away here out of the final corner. The Viper's got the strong engine and the dodgy grip, and I think the Lister has still got good grip and not a strong engine. So that's an excellent battle. Neither car fully fit at the end of this race. And well, here as well, the Ferrari perhaps ought to have, well, Duez and the Ferrari perhaps ought to have a slightly better chance against Bleekemolen in the car sport car, certainly than he would have, I think, against Hazemans, with no disrespect to Bleekemolen. And again, another bobble. The Labra car does not want to go round the corners. We are now getting very, very close indeed. We're into the final 5 minutes of this race. And this really could go either way for the first and second places and for third and fourth. Looks as though the Car Sport Holland car may be easing away from Duez in third place, but no such luck, I don't think, here. Christophe Bouchou can't get away from Jamie Campbell-Walter, and the twisty-turny stuff, there's not enough of it for Jamie, rather too much for Christophe. And for straight lines, well, Jamie doesn't want any more of those than he can possibly have to deal with, and Christophe Bouchou wouldn't care if they were on the Le Mans straight right now, because that's where his car is handling well, in a straight line. Oh, again, wiggling there. Well, time ticking away. Let's have a look on the start line. Ganchi couldn't quite see the clock, but It's getting very close indeed, and on to the last lap now. Less than a minute remaining as they came across the line. It will be the last lap. The 3-hour mark again will settle this one. Look, there's Mike Hasemans and the Carsport Holland boys looking over. There is his son, Jeroen, in 3rd place. Did I say Mike Hasemans? I didn't mean that, did I? I meant Michael Bleekemolen, not Mike Hasemans. But it's still open, potentially for the lead. Traffic ahead of Christophe Bouchou. He can't get through, he can't dive through. Under braking to get past the 54 Art Racing car of Fabio Barbini. The NGT 2nd place man now. Surely it's all over for Jamie Campbell-Walter. Bouchou too far ahead. No! Dreadfully all over the road there. Still maybe a slim glimmer of opportunity for Jamie through this tight stuff, but a back marker in the way. Oh, and a big slide from Bouchou. He's really driving the wheels off this car. No longer the tyres. There's nothing left, and look at Campbell-Walter. Dives through the 2 back markers there. He's almost in touching distance now. Christophe Bouchou. Can Bouchou find enough of a straight line to stay ahead? Well, the Labra mechanics looking over the pit wall. The Lister guys will be doing the same. Last few corners of a 3-hour race and nothing between the first 2 men. Christophe Bouchou, broadside out to the final corner. Jamie Campbell-Walter's got the grip. Has he got the power? He just gets in front and he holds it to the line. Jamie Campbell-Walter wins in Zolder by inches. Wow, what a dramatic last lap battle. Campbell-Walter wins it, and I bet Bouchou can't believe his luck. Goodness me, that was dramatic stuff. Halfway around the final lap, it looked absolutely dead and buried for Campbell-Walter, and somehow he found the grip to come back. Michael Bleekemolen and son Sebastian celebrating as Jeroen brings the number 3 Carsport car home onto a podium finish ahead of the Raffinelli Ferrari of Mark Duez. But it's Jamie Campbell-Walter and Tom Coronel in the Lister Storm who win here in Zolder in the most dramatic finish I can remember in an FIA GT race for a very long time. Broadside, the pair of them, sliding out to the final corner. 111 laps in a 3-hour race, and decided by hundredths of a second. Look at that. Absolutely nothing to choose between them. Well, the crowd have enjoyed fine, warm, sunshine weather here at Zolder, and a great cliffhanging finale to the race as well. 11 100ths of a second between them at the line. Bouchou and Belloc taking 2nd, Hasemans and Bleekemolen 3rd. From the Ferrari, then the NGT winner in 5th place ahead of Paul Belmondo, who put his car off in the dirt in his first stint. Jean-Pierre Jarier and François Lafont in 7th ahead of Luca Capigliari and Matteuzzi in the Racing Box car. Moccia and Barbini 2nd in NGT, Kaufmann and Ortelli down to 3rd in NGT in the end. Neugarten and Perrier 4th in NGT. But Jamie Campbell-Walter and Tom Coronel celebrating with Lawrence Pierce and the Lister team. Great job by them. Well, let's have a look again at the final corner. Bouchou, look, tail steps out, and Jamie somehow gets inside him to just keep his nose ahead across the line. Wow, great stuff by both drivers there, clean and fair, no cynical nudging or banging at all. And Jamie Campbell-Walter, wow, look at that, the laughter of relief and jubilation as he wins that one there. Tom Coronel and the rest of the little Lister crew celebrate. Well, a great result again from them, the Lister team, as they pride themselves on racing on the budget that most other people spend on hospitality in the season. Well, Jamie, there's Jamie, let's hear from him.
Thrilling end to a 3-hour race. Were you ever worried at the end there that you would run out of laps?
Yeah, I mean, we had the last 10 laps, the car had about 5 pounds of pressure in the engine. We had no oil in the engine, basically, so we had no horsepower. The engine's making horrendous noises, but the old Lister V12 made it to the end, and my car was quicker through the corners, and that was where I could catch up, but down the straights he was miles quicker, so it was just a case of putting my head down and doing like 10 qualifying laps basically, like Tommy did in the Super Bowl. It's pretty hard work actually, I'm tired. So, but you know, I couldn't believe it when it happened, and you know, that's racing, and you know, what a fantastic race. That's what racing's all about. That's where I used to come from, racing one-make championships and single-seaters, wheel to wheel, and that was fantastic out the last corner. We didn't even touch each other, but we were both sideways. Brilliant. I really loved it. And Tommy, oh, what a boy. Qualifying fantastic, and obviously his middle stint was excellent.
Well, there you go. I think that says it all. The race review written there by Jamie Campbell-Walter, but still, Boucher and Belloc leading the championship by 5 from Campbell-Walter. Tom in 3rd place ahead of Vincent Vos and his teammate Hasemans and Bleekemolen now on 8 points in 7th place ahead of Michael and Sebastian, Manuel Aspetti and Mimo Schiattarella on 7. So doubtless after that 2nd place finish, Christophe Boucher will also be complaining about the power and the performance of the Lister. However, I think that was a very close fought battle by all top 4 drivers. Now let's have a word with Christophe.
Christophe, it was a great race, but I don't suppose that's going to be much consolation for you. How do you feel?
I'm really disappointed, even if the weekend started very bad with a very bad setup, but anyway, we was first before the last corner, and just because some cars, some slow car like GT3, I never look on the mirror, it was necessary for me to brake and to miss a time, and Lister arrived behind and profit of this opportunity on me. So it's very shame. I'm really angry, but it's not so bad for the championship. But I hope that we'll have some for next race, some explication with some people, and to look better the rear mirror.
Thank you, Christophe.
Well, obviously Boucher winning at Silverstone because of a back marker not seeing the #1 Lister coming. So what goes around comes around, I believe, would probably be the best reflection on that. But as everybody expected at Zolder, tight track and tough to make it through the back markers. Well, there you saw the NGT podium sitters and the NGT classification again. Just to reiterate, if I can find me a bit of paper, it was Riccitelli's Red Bull car that won from Mottier and Babini, and Kaufmann and Ortelli in 3rd spot ahead of Perrier and Neugarten. And in the end, the Sugden O'Rourke car retiring after just 25 laps, unfortunately. So Luca Riccitelli there on the right-hand side of the top step with Andrea Baldini on the left-hand side of the picture, not of actually the step. And there you go. So the Dumez and Gousselard car parked after 76 lap by Gousselard. There you saw the Viper coming down off the jacks. P4 minus 14 seconds. It was the hurry-up given to Bleekemolen. And there you saw the Laber car losing lots of time on the last but a couple lap. And Jamie Campbell-Walter seizing a last gasp victory by the scruff of the neck in the Lister as they win in the GT class.
The FIA GT Championship. With LeasePlan. Fleet management in motion. Filatice. Stretching fibers, fabrics and yarns.
Yokohama, power of performance.
Welcome back to Zolder. This is the first race of the Euro STC round 5 of Eurosport's Super Racing Weekends. And after using 2 sets of qualifying slicks to get the job done, Gabriele Tarquini once more starting at the head of the field. Nicola Marini, the points leader by 40 from Fabrizio Giovanardi. Tarquini back up to 4th place in points after Silverstone, but still struggling to catch the runaway leaders in their Audis. Well, Tarquini has the best chance here, having starting from pole as his ace in the hole. He should be able to hold the lead into the first corner. And track not too dirty as they get ready to go. Now let's see where Roberto Colciaggio comes from, middle of the second row. Look at him go in the Audi. Oh, great start with a four-wheel drive on the slightly dusty grid. Takes the lead. Colciaggio leads. Tarquini second, Larini in third place. Giovanardi in fourth. Gianluca De Lorenzi in sixth place as Matt Neal gets past him. And Matt Neal heading off with the big boys, leaving the privateers behind here. But boy, look at Colciaggio go. He was second fastest in qualifying into the final few minutes. And as predicted by Giovanardi, the Audi's four-wheel drive, he said, will help it off the line and will probably also mean that he won't suffer so much from the dust and dirt on the track. Well, Colciaggio, having had a fairly torrid time in a couple of the races, along with Tarquini, you'll recall, had, well, in one of them at least, has a points deficit to catch up on. Tarquini, though, in the middle of a sandwich now between Colciaggio, who he'd love to be able to pass and get away from, and Larini, who is right behind. Larini, the points leader. Tarquini, second spot then. Colciaggio leading. Larini, Giovanardi, and Matt Neal right with Giovanardi in the Nissan. Then Gianluca De Lorenzi. And then behind him is Fabrice Valfish in seventh place in the second Eurosport Honda Accord. And Colciaggio with victory in Magny-Cours, the second race at Magny-Cours, but he's not going to get one here. Outbrakes himself. All right, the traction will help him come through the chicane. He won't lose too many places. But, oh, he only loses one. That's unbelievable as the two Alphas are battling each other right behind. Matt Neal's in the middle of them. Is that Giovanardi through and Matt Neal as well ahead of Larini? I think it may possibly be. Tarquini leads. Then it's the Audi in second place. And it's certainly one of the two Alphas has got a problem. Tarquini piling on the pressure there to Colciaggio, and Colciaggio surviving. It is Larini. Larini's got a problem now. He had a problem in qualifying again that used up half the session. An oil line was leaking, and I wonder if it's that. Oh dear! Tarquini outbrakes himself trying to get past Matt Neal. What's happening to the Nord Auto drivers? Goodness me, these two have been paragons, virtuous paragons of reliability and pace this season. Now they're both out in the first race. Oh dear, well that's what happened to him. Didn't quite see the full story there in the first shot. Matt Neal tagging him up the backside. Well, the damaged nose to the Nissan may not help Matt Neal either. Black flag for him. Well, really, I think that's a little unnecessary. That was clearly, well, I would say, having brake from behind and only tapped him up the backside, I would say that that was probably a racing incident as opposed to a deliberate nerfing.
We'd had a bit of a drama in pre-practice this morning with the brakes and too much bias to the rear. And I was coming forward and forward and forward on the bias until I couldn't go any further forward, and it kept on locking the back end up. I'm sorry to Giovanardi. I came into a tight second gear right-hander out the back, just locked the rear up, and I just slid into him. So it's a shame because the car was running really good. Felt well.
Shame indeed. Shame for Giovanardi as well. Shame for Larini, who got back out of the pits only to retire 7 laps in. And, well, no points for him. And that is Larini's first DNF of the season. Now, later on, Pijoli clashing with Eric Cairol. Cairol in the BMW, Pijoli currently third in the championship, coming to Zolder, and the rescue vehicles on hand. 8 laps in then, Gabriele Tarquini from Roberto Colciaggio by 4.5 seconds. Valfish in third, De Lorenzi in fourth, Giovanardi down in fifth, and Angelo Lanciolotti in sixth place in the number 9 machine. So Valfish in third place, and he really now needs to make sure he keeps Giovanardi bottled up behind him to help Tarquini. That's the deal in racing in a team. Well, Giovanardi putting in the moves on De Lorenzi, trying to recover after that incident with Matt Neal. As I say, I would certainly have judged that even on the replay as a mistake by Matt Neal rather than a thump up the bum, and I don't see a black flag would be necessary for that. Similarly, Heinrich Szymanczyk here and Eric Cairol. Similar problem. Watch Szymanczyk, gets on the brakes, see the big black stripes. It's not that he wasn't braking and tapped Cairol, it's that he didn't have enough retardation. And I have to say, the stewards here at Zolder, knowing how mucky their track is, ought to make allowances for it. And I don't think that a black flag was even remotely justified with Matt Neal. Szymanczyk and Cairol's cars out of action then, very definitely. But for the Eurosport Honda team, it'll be victory with Gabriele Tarquini. Tarquini romping away from Roberto Colciaggio, Fabrice Valfish, his teammate, in third place. And there is the Nissan almost going a lap down the other Nissan. Of course, Sandro Sardelli. Sardelli had the gear lever jam, or break off, in fact, in his hands in qualifying, which didn't help him very much, and broke the splitter as well. So he started a long way down the order and finished a long way down as well. Tarquini winning then from Colciaggio. Valfish in third. Giovanardi, despite his dramas, in fourth place and scoring points. So chalk up the first DNF of the season for Nicola Larini. Is that a crack in the armour? Well, I think we'll have to wait and see on that one. But certainly Gabriele Tarquini notches up another win, and that, incidentally, is his fourth consecutive.
Yeah, it was very easy because after the Audi mistake and the braking, I was leading, and also Colciaggio was stopped at the 2 Alpha behind him, so it was quite easy. I take a little bit advantage and I control the race.
Points look like this then. Giovanardi no longer 40 behind, he's just 10 behind. Tarquini in third is, well, just over 40 behind now, and so it's starting to close up a little bit on Nicola Larini. Question is, what can the Nord Auto driver do about it in race 2? Stay with us and you'll find out. Join us for more in just a moment. Welcome back to Zolder, race 2 in the Euro STC, 5th round of the championship. Just 11 cars on the grid for the second start. Roberto Colciaggio on row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the grid. Sorry, I can't do subtraction. And Matt Neal and Nicola Larini right behind him. Why so few? Well, damage and changes. There are half a dozen cars starting from the pit lane in order of when they'll be released. Mirko Lempinen, Heinrich Szymanczyk, Eric Cairol, Gabriele Tarquini, winner of race 1, Enrico Toccocello and Massimo Piccioli. Tarquini in there because he needed to change the steering on the Honda. So they're led round by Sandro Sardelli, and then Eric Zadra, Romano Bernardoni in the Alfa there, Gianluca Roda, Angelo Lancialotti, Gianluca De Lorenzi, Fabrizio Giovanardi, number 1 Alpha. There you can see him in the background. Fabrice Valfish in the Honda. Roberto Colciaggio, Matt Neal, and Nicola Larini. And then the safety cars, because the rest of them will start from the pit lane. And that's going to make things very different from race 1 for Gabriele Tarquini. Tarquini won in Magny-Cours, the first race at Magny-Cours, didn't finish race 2, but then won both races at Silverstone. So in fact, the first race win here was not his 4th on the trot, it was his 4th from the last 4 finishes he's had. Didn't finish race 2 at Magny-Cours. But still, Tarquini's 5th race win of the season. And the next most prolific winner is Nicola Larini with 3. No, I beg your pardon, with only 2. And Fabrizio Giovanardi with only 2. Now, if Gabriele can stop retiring from things, then he still has a very healthy chance of the championship, something that didn't look very likely after the first 2 races at Monza and Brno. So on board with Roberto Colciaggio then. Again, expect a blinding start from the Audi. It may be warm and sunny to help the front and rear drivers, but I'm sorry, with 4 wheels, you are always going to get away better. Colciaggio then on the right at the back of the picture, and as you can see on the left-hand side of the grid. So he will go down that left-hand wall, and if he has to put 2 wheels in the dirt, well, he's still got as many wheels working on the tarmac as everyone else. Yes, better get that focused up before the start, because this could be fun. On board with Colciaggio, right ahead of him is Giovanardi. Giovanardi, remind you, just 8 points off the championship lead after the first race. Starting from behind Colciaggio is Larini, stone last on the grid. From the pit lane, Gabriele Tarquini. Sandro Sardelli's Nissan will head them away, with Paolo Zadra in the BMW alongside him. Sardelli gets a good start, so too does Bernardoni. Here comes on the right-hand side of the picture. There is Larini, and Colciaggio's bottled up behind him. Colciaggio trying to go through with him. It'll be De Lorenzi third, gets a rub there from Giovanardi on board with Colciaggio. He'll go down the inside of De Lorenzi, put 2 wheels over the curb and ditch hook it round. There he does, up into 4th place. Sardelli leads from Zadra. It's exit the pit lane time. There goes Tarquini behind all of the others. He'll want them to get well out of the way and damn fast about it. Bernardoni goes backwards, only Larini behind her now of the Alpha drivers, and that's not for long, I'm sure. Well, Nicola trying to get through, but look at this. Up into 2nd spot goes Giovanardi, as up into 4th, and across the chicane again goes the Audi. Dramatic stuff once more from Roberto Colciaggio. Oh, for an onboard view of that one, that'll look like you're playing PlayStation. Sardelli leads, Giovanardi 2nd, Zadra 3rd, and then in 4th place is the Audi. And here is the rest of the field, and the guys that started from the pits, look how far back they are. It's a huge difference as they're released from the pits, because there's a long, long exit road down to the 2nd corner. So the race, well, I wouldn't say over for those guys, but it's a very uphill struggle. On board with Colciaggio now. Zadra right ahead, and the BMW should stand no chance through the twisty stuff under braking. Audi makes the move. Giovanardi rockets over the curbs in 2nd spot, with just Sardelli's Nissan ahead of him at the end of lap 1. Colciaggio is 3rd. Valfish is in 7th place there. That's that Honda. No sign yet of Tarquini. He is some way back. So the Audi pushing hard, 3rd place, and driving away from the rest of them. Oh, and Zadra's over on the gravel there. Matt Neal's gone through. There's Larini. Will he squeak by? Yes, he does. And Giovanardi is going to pick up a place as well. Maybe not here, but surely and soon, as he rockets up for 2nd place. There's Matt Neal. He's in 4th at the moment, behind Giovanardi all over the curbs, and here comes Giovanardi around the outside. Takes the lead from Sardelli. I meant Matt Neal was in 4th place behind Colciaggio, didn't I, in the Audi? But he's not. In fact, he's now down in 5th. He's been passed, I think, or passed back, I think, by Lancialotti in the white Alpha. Yes, he has. So Matt Neal back down to 5th after that sandy excursion. But I wonder if he'll get past Lancialotti. Giovanardi leads, Colciaggio on the dirt, all over the back of Sardelli. Neal in 5th place, all over the back of Lancialotti. There's Lorini in 7th. Battles further back. Still no sign of the pit lane leavers. Yes, no, that's De Laurentiis. I was going to say that's the Honda at the back of the picture, but it's not yet. So I think it's all over for Tarquini in terms of catching these guys. He's just going to try and get in among the points. Sardelli under pressure now from Colciaggio for 2nd place. Not going to happen there, but down into the right-handed corner too, it should. Yes, look at him dive down the inside there. In he goes. Takes 2nd place away. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to find Nissan's 3rd and 4th in a minute, because all these guys easing away. No, still Lancialotti in 4th place ahead of Matt Neal. Let's see, there in the long shot, there is Lancialotti in 4th place, Matt Neal in 5th. As Giovanardi eases away, Colciaggio, Sardelli holding on for 3rd place. Matt Neal looking at the inside, couldn't get through past Lancialotti there. And Valfish with Lorini behind him. And it's important again for Valfish to keep Lorini behind him. By fair means, not foul. I don't think that Gabriele Tarquini would necessarily want him to do anything like that. Poggioli and Tarquini. Oh, was that? No, that was Lempinen, the 3rd of the Audis. It was the Finn, Mikko Lempinen. Tarquini gets by him. Lempinen only the 1st of the men to leave the pits. And Tarquini now at the head of that little group. Still long way to go, and more dirt strewing the circuit. Is that a word? Answers on a postcard. On board with Tarquini then. Now this will be a masterclass from Tarquini of stringing together qualifying laps and calling it a race. Giovanardi leads, look at him. Ooh, looking down inside the cockpit, maybe making a small adjustment to the brake balance, something like that. Colciaggio, Sardelli, and then Lancialotti still holding off Matt Neal. This time Neal's down the inside. Yes, surely he's going to hold on there. He does. Holds up Lancialotti by making him stay extra late on the brakes. And now look at this, Lorini making a move on Valfish. Fabrice, to his credit, doesn't take the opportunity to punt him off, which he could have done had he been so inclined. Sardelli 3rd there, Neal 4th, Lancialotti 5th. Matt will have to hope that Lancialotti holds off Nicola Lorini as long as he held off Matt Neal. Angelo Lancialotti in the white Alpha, the Conrero run car, but Nicola Lorini taking no prisoners down the inside. Matt Neal's car again, a puff of smoke, obviously still not entirely shaken off that brake balance problem, I would think, with Colciaggio still rocking and rolling over the curbs. Giovanardi ahead of him, and I fancy that Colciaggio thinks there's a win in this one for him. Won race 2 at Magny-Cours. It's his only win of the season so far. Brace of 3rd places at Monza. And 3rd and a 1st at Magny-Cours. Well, let's see what happens here. Silverstone, not a good race weekend for him. Qualified 5th, despite an engine change, didn't make race 1, didn't finish race 2, which he did start from the pit lane. So Colciaggio having a severe touch of the Tarquinis there in terms of bad luck, and dropping way down the order, being in the top 3 in the championship, now down to only 7th place before the start of race 1 here. But not giving up, there's no need to with this 20-round championship. There is still the chance to lose ground and make it back, as witness Gabriele Tarquini's rise after race 1. Only the same amount of points behind Nicola Lorini as Giovanardi was after Silverstone. In fact, just a few less. So Colciaggio still chasing Fabrizio Giovanardi, and Giovanardi, after qualifying, saying that he actually felt to be in the best position of whom he sees as the main championship contenders, which would be points lead in Nicola Larini, who he said was already at the stage where he's going to have to be a little bit defensive. Oh, and Colciaggio with a problem, surely. And Gabriele Tarquini to finish the point, who he thought was going to have to be aggressive all the time and couldn't really take anything for granted. Yes, Colciaggio pulls offline as Sardelli comes up behind him. Oh, the engine's gone off song. Look, he's still got gears, but he's got no power. And I would suggest perhaps a blown oil line or a blown turbo or something like that on the Audi. Blown turbo? Yeah, a blown oil line on the Audi or some such. Maybe it's dropped a valve or broken a spring or something, but whatever. They have blown turbo, I'm sorry. The Audi out of the race. So Sardelli goes back up to second, Matt Neal in third place. And poor old Roberto, another DNF, another expensive engine problem. Shows just how hard those cars are having to work. So Colciaggio in the pits and out of the race, and look at the lead that Fabrizio Giovanardi has got over Sardelli, Neal and Larini, the next three cars up. Matt Neal looking at the inside. That wasn't his brake squealing, that was somebody's rusty gate or something near the camera. Sandro Sardelli second, Neal third, Larini fourth. And Matt will be watching his mirrors as closely as he's watching Sardelli, because, yes, look, another big puff of smoke, and I'm sure that's his back brakes locking. He said in race one, even with the brakes wound fully to the front, which in theory should be only the front brakes working, he's got a problem in that brake system, and the rears are locking up. And that means you've got to brake in a straight line, get off the brakes before you even think about turning the wheel, which is not the fastest way in these cars. Valfish next up, then De Lorenzi. Oh, Valfish all over the grass. Fabrice, what were you thinking of? Sardelli doing a good job here, holding off Matt Neal, and again the rears lock up. This time he was turned as they locked up, and he somehow saves it all, but Nicola Larini gets a biff for his troubles. Well, there is Larini, comes across the line ahead of Matt Neal, Fabrice Valfish. And I rather fancy that Matt Neal may not see the end of this race. Here we go, this is the final chicane. Neal brakes and has to turn to get it in. He's trying to stay ahead of Larini. Well, full marks for recovery, but the braking system once more letting him down there. So Sardelli still in second, Larini third, Matt Neal right with him. And Larini will be hoping that Matt doesn't have the same sort of problem trying to stay with him that he did with Giovanardi and tap him up the backside. Oh, and Tarquini off in the gravel, no! So, no fairy tale ending in Zolder for Gabriele Tarquini. Has his non-stop qualifying stint ended his race, or was it perhaps some other problem? I rather fancy they're not going to pull that out with a tow rope unless they use a tractor. But Gabriele is off the track. He's pointing over there, probably saying, oi, go and get that tractor. Here it comes. Well, that's the end of the race, I think, for Tarquini, and certainly very few points for him as Giovanardi leads. Join us for more in a minute. Welcome back to Zolder. 4 laps to go in race 2, round 5 of the Euro STC. And the race still being led, well, by Fabrizio Giovanardi by quite some margin from this battle. Sandro Sardelli in the white, red and blue Nissan, and Nicola Larini, the championship leader, third place in the Nordauto Alfa Romeo. Behind him still is Matt Neal, despite that paucity of brake balance problem which he's had all the way through the weekend, effectively. And Gabriele Tarquini, who won the first race, out of the race and in the gravel. You can see the mark on the right-hand door of Larini's car, where Matt Neal went off and then came back on the penultimate corner and accidentally clouted Larini. But Neal's still right with him and really hanging in there, despite the fact his brake balance is all over the road. And ooh, now, was that an overtaking manoeuvre, or could he just not stop and had to go to the inside anyway? Do you know what? I think Larini saw that coming and thought, I don't care what it is, I'm staying out of the way just in case. And it's exactly what Giovanardi said his teammate was likely to have to do, which is be careful and not take chances on failing to score finishes, because Giovanardi now much closer in the championship, just 8 points between them. Giovanardi way clear here. Larini must know that, well on his way to a win, unless mechanical problem intervenes. So Larini can't afford to get knocked out, or he will go away from here without the championship lead. Possible the way the points rack up, he may anyway, but certainly no point in taking chances. It's always the last corner anyway, and he knows he's got better brakes than Matt Neal. So Sardelli second, Neal third there in the 29 car, the 100-plus rim stock machine. And the number 2, Selenia Nordauto Alpha in 4th place. There is our race leader. Zoom, he's gone. And we wait for the all-Nissan battle for 2nd and 3rd, with the Alpha in 4th. And again, Matt locks up there, the back end, or the back end locks up on him. And again, he loses time through the chicane, and again, Larini's right with him, and again, Matt takes the defensive inside line. He's really hanging in there for a podium if he can. Sardelli's thwacked the tyres on his way through, so Sardelli will be slow out of the chicane. Matt Neal's car is all over the road at the moment. It's really not doing what he wants it to at all. He's not able to control it on the way in, and as a result, he's really having to fight it on the way out. Well, he's doing a sterling job here. Further back, Fabrice Valfish, rather, under pressure from Gianluca De Lorenzi. And De Lorenzi, best of the amateurs here, all those registered for the amateur championship. Oh no, he's not, of course, because Sardelli is as well. So Sardelli doing a sterling job here in the Nissan, and Matt Neal right with him. And this is on target to be comfortably Sardelli's best race result of the year. So far he's had best results of 4ths and 3 6th places. He's had a pair of 4ths, a 5th and a pair of 3 6th places, but this will be his first podium. Whether he sorts out his battle with Matt Neal or not to hold on to 2nd place, either way, 2nd or 3rd will be a better result than anything he's had this year. And Matt, since he joined in, has had a 4th and at Manicourt, and a 3rd and a 4th at Silverstone, and he's just got to hold on to that. 2 laps to go. Larini's close enough still to take advantage of a mistake. But, well, I wonder why he's dropped quite so far back, Nicola. I wouldn't think there's much point of giving up at the moment. Giovanardi is well ahead, and these two, all right, well, maybe close in halfway around the penultimate lap and then be right with them on the last lap to try and get through. But I would have to say that if I was driving, my judgment would be to get right behind them and wait for something to hand a position at least, or possibly 2 to you. Again, Matt Neal's car, he must be able to see, as we can, is very far from handling the way he wants it to. Giovanardi leading by 4 from Sardelli, Neal and Larini. Larini is closer now, and again Matt's brakes locking up at the back end. He's kind of got to grips with it a bit more than previously now. Still, Michele Larini not right there. Matt Neal is, though, right with Sardelli, and almost contact there. I could almost swear you saw a bit of white paint on the nose of the Nissan there, if there wasn't a sticker there anyway. There may actually be some. Sardelli very wide out of the corner, and Neal goes through now at the end of the subsequent straight. So Matt Neal up into 2nd place, Sardelli 3rd. Here comes Larini now. Okay, halfway round the final lap. Oh, touch. And I think Larini loosening a bumper that may already have been a fraction loosened. No, that wasn't the side that Matt Neal was on in the previous corner, so there was a touch as Larini hit the back of Sardelli's car. Sardelli 2nd to 4th in 3 or 4 corners. Valfish still under pressure, but it's Giovanardi from Neal and Larini. So Giovanardi away and clear. Can Nicola Larini limit the damage by working his way up to and past Matt Neal for 2nd place? 2 corners left in which to decide it. Not close enough to make a move there. Valfish holding off De Lorenzi. And Giovanardi wins. Matt Neal posts his best result of the championship so far. Second place, third place for Larini, fourth Sardelli, fifth Valfish, sixth De Lorenzi. Tarquini out of the points. And the Nordauto team applauding their man. Giovanardi vaults right to the top of the standings as he wins in race 2 at Zolder. So Giovanardi, who has won just one race so far, the second race at Brno, has been a paragon of consistent finishing though, never outside the top 4 in a race yet, and he wins here in race 2 at Zolder. So Giovanardi then doing himself the world of favours, but Matt Neal finishing a very strong second.
That was a great start you got off to there. You were up to second by the end of the first lap. It must have helped you to win.
Yes, I think it's the really first start that I do really well. It's important to start in the second race really fast, because you must overtake most car you can. And I think I win the race. That was hard the first 2 laps, because behind me in Polchago was really fast, really hard, and then I didn't understand what happened.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Hey, you're a bloody head case. Va a cagar el pez, pelado.
I'm not quite sure what was going on afterwards. There seemed to be a little bit of cars running into each other in the Parc Fermé. That was the result of Matt Neal going off in front of Larini. But Larini, by the skin of his teeth, holds on by 2 points to the championship lead. Just as well, he eased his way past Sardelli there. And Matt Neal finishing a strong second place. And let's hope he finds the money to continue in the championship when it rejoins at Hungaroring. And there is the moment that he zipped by Larini. Larini saw it coming and thought, I'll get out the way of that one. Neal up into second place there past Sardelli. And good drive by the Brit. Well done indeed to him and the team. Well, that's it from the Euro STC. We've still got the Super Prods to come, so don't go leaving us. We'll be back at Zolder in just a moment. Welcome back to Zolder for our final instalment of action from the 5th Eurosport Super Racing Weekend. It's the Super Prods. Duncan Heisman is the championship leader by 2 points, and he's our man to show us around Zolder.
So here we get on the main straight, which we do in 5th gear. Now we're still in 4th, then on start-finish 5th gear. We do about 200 kilometers an hour before the first left-hander. It's 3rd gear corner. I had to slow a little bit here before the Honda, and there was a yellow flag. Then we shift off to 4th gear. Then we go into the Sterrenwacht corner, which is 3rd gear, which is the new part of the circuit. Was quite dusty, it's slippery. Then we shift up to 4th gear. It's a very long right-hander. Then into 5th gear, just for 200 meters. Go back for the Bianchi corner to 4th gear. Take as much speed in as possible. Then on the exit you do 5th gear for the second long straight of the circuit. We go to the chicane, which is the 3rd gear corner. A left-hander, right, left-hander. You have to try to get as much as possible over the curbs on the inside of the corners to get as much possible speed in the car. Then we go again 5th gear, left-hander. We go towards the Villeneuve chicane, which is 2nd gear. You can do it in 3rd as well, but I did it in 2nd. The right-hander. Then you have to wait a little here, do a short shift to 3rd gear, exit the corner, and then a very fast 4th gear corner. I don't know the name, but it's very quick. It's a very nice corner. Then again 5th gear. Then we go back to 2nd gear for the tight right-hander. I think this is the slowest corner of the track. The car is always sliding over here. Then 3rd, 4th and 5th gear before the Jackie X chicane, which is the last corner before start and finish. You brake at around 100 meters over here. Back to 2nd or 3rd gear, you can do both. I do 2nd gear because the car was sliding too much, as you can see. Then exit 3rd and 4th, and then back to 5th, and we're back on start finish.
Well, it looks like a fun lap, doesn't it, in a super production car? Lots of movement, and the size of the circuit really suits these cars quite nicely. So Duncan Heisman then leading us around the Zolder track, and he, as I said, leads the championship by just 2 points. Well, incidentally, Matt Kelly, who drove the second RGN Motorsport Nissan at Silverstone last weekend, not here. Car ran into engine problems, and it will appear later in the championship with young Italian Simone De Luca at the helm. But there is a newcomer here, 24-year-old Finn Marcus Palttila. He's in the Honda that you heard about, the Honda Integra R. It's a GDL Racing entered car, and the young Finn racing in the last couple of seasons in the Finnish Sport 2000 Championship, and hopefully he will manage the rest of the season with the Honda. So another new manufacturer, although not a brand new car by any stretch of the imagination, to super production racing. So Norman Seaman hoping to start from pole for the first time ever in Super Prod. 50 seconds before the end of the session, however, Peter Cox came in, went 0.2 of a second quicker than his teammate in the Ravaglia team to claim the top spot. The Ravaglia team dominating the front row of the grid once more. Duncan Heisman in third place in the better of the Carly Motorsport cars on the second row of the grid, because local driver Fredrik Buvy in his second race only with that car in fourth spot ahead of teammate Pegan Anderson. Gianni Morbidelli in the CBME car in sixth spot ahead of Tommy Rustad and Tobio Massini. Paolo Roberti in the second CBME car on row 5 of the grid ahead of Marcus Palttila, and then Fulvio Cavici ahead of Luis Villamil in the best of the Alphas. Tom Ferrier in on the inside of row 7 in his Edenbridge car, and James Hansen on the inside of row 8. Now on board with Ferrier here, with the field lining up in front of him, and getting ready to pick up a bit of pace as they come round to the grid. And apparently the CBME team have asked Carly Motorsport if they can have their engines from Carly as well, but the engine manufacturer hasn't got enough capacity to be able to supply the Carly cars, the Ravaglia cars, and as well the CBME cars. Maybe that might come later, maybe not. But for the blue Nissan, you can see Tommy Rustad's looking for a good getaway there. You can see his nose sticking out, but as they go, will it be Cox or Seaman? No, look at Heisman, and behind him Buvy with the multicoloured Belgian flag all over the car, and Cox has a couple of weaves, but Heisman between them. Door banging with Seaman. Seaman down to fourth. It's Cox from Heisman, from Buvy, from Seaman into the first corner, down to this new section, the second right-hander, and then the third right-hander, and Heisman's inside. He's got his nose inside. Will he go on the grass? Yes, he does. Inside Cox. Heisman leads. Now, that's the first time Peter Cox has not held the lead away from the start in the championship. 4 races so far. From pole position he started and led all the way. Heisman's best positions have been in second place. He's had podium finishes, and the only one that Cox has failed to win was the one he failed to finish after door banging with Heisman at Magny-Cours. And into the gravel goes Villamil. Luis Villamil bouncing all over the track there, and that leaves Tobio Massini still as the lead alpha. And Pegan Anderson ahead of Tommy Rustad, the Swede from the Norwegian. Going to try and stop calling Tommy Rustad a Swede now. He is a Norwegian, former Swedish touring car champion though, and Norwegian touring car champion. And so Duncan Heisman leading from Cox, Seaman, Buvy. Well, Buvy very happy that the Carly Motorsport team, despite the fact he'd only had 1 race in this car, allowing him to make his own decisions on setup, as he knows the Zolder track well, and he was pretty happy with the car. In the end, only 0.2 off Heisman's qualifying pace. Let's see if he can get laid into Norman Seaman in front of him, and maybe snatch away a third place. At the moment he's lined up nicely to do so. Cox not going to make a move on Heisman here, but there may be a change for third place. Norman Seaman sees it coming, defends well, and they both go to the outside of the circuit. CBME cars ahead of the best of the Alphas, Massini. So Roberti got past Tobio Massini away from the line to trail Gianni Morbidelli. On board now with Peter Cox, the Roberto Ravaglia run car. Car number 1, second place at the moment. So Duncan Heisman then with the advantage from the start. Now Cox will play it cool, stick with him, refuse to let the number 12 car ease away, and make sure that he's always there to apply the pressure and to make sure that Heisman has no opportunity to relax. And Heisman's front bumper askew there after contact in the first corner. And there may possibly be a long-term payoff for that, not from the bumper being askew, but possibly from the contact with Norman Seaman. Although Seaman was on the left-hand side of the car, and the right-hand side of the car looks as though the bumper's coming adrift, so not quite sure whether there may have been the tiniest rub with Peter Cox as well. Didn't look to be. Anyway, Cox second, Seaman in third, Bouvier in fourth, Rustad fifth, no, Rustad sixth behind Anderson, and then the two CBME cars, and whether it's Ruperti and Morbidelli or Morbidelli and Ruperti, I'm afraid not quite sure. So they're stretching out a little. 1.7 seconds between second and third place men now. And Norman Seaman starting to get the hammer down and leave Frederick Bouvier behind a fraction. And Bouvier, the former Belgian touring car champion, new to this super production lark after only debuting in the car at Silverstone, and only his second race in this car, it will be his last race in the championship as well for this year. BMW Belgium have got Carly Motorsport building the car for them and running it for a variety of drivers, none of whom get more than 2 races. So Bouvier having his 2 back-to-back, and he's the lucky Belgian that gets to race at Zolder. On board with Tom Ferrier, right ahead is James Hansen. So Hansen's had a good start to get ahead of Ferrier. There is James and Tom right behind, the 2 Edenbridge cars. And hopefully David Leslie, having tested with the team before Silverstone, able to give them a few extra points. It's the drivers as much as anything else, I think. And David, those of you who are wondering where he's got to, off racing this weekend in America, doing his day job racing in the Speed Vision Cup. So he's at Mosport this weekend, strictly Canada, I suppose, but North America at least. And then at Lime Rock, lucky beggar, next weekend. Slide from James Hansen there ahead of Tom Ferrier, showing how hard the Edenbridge boys are pushing. They're not just sitting back because their cars may not be absolutely perfect front runners by any stretch of the imagination. So damage to the front and rear of Heisman's car. Doesn't seem to be worrying him too much. Cox second, Seaman third. Saw somebody coming down the pit road. Not quite sure who that may have been. Maybe one of the tail end Alphas. No, maybe Paltula, the new Finn. No, there he is in the Honda as Hansen gets back past in front of Ferrier, and Tom's going, oh, blimey, mate, what were you doing? Come on, let's not take each other off. Well, I think James saw a gap and went with it. And these two guys just as likely to be battling each other on the racetrack, I think, as anyone else. Not because they don't get on, but because their cars are of a very similar pace. And that kind of puts them in close proximity behind the Honda Integra R at the moment. So Duncan Heisman out front. And Peter Cox still with him. Norman Seaman is definitely catching this pair out front. And there again you see Heisman choosing second gear to try and kill the oversteer out of the slower chicanes. So I don't know how that works. Not entirely sure why that would work, particularly going for a lower gear and more revs to kill oversteer, rather than taking it through in third with one less gear change, but with less revs on the engine. I'm not really quite sure why that would be the case. Anyway, as we see there in replay, that is our Finnish driver, Markus Paltula, bouncing across the grass in the Honda, and on board with Ferrier. See James Hansen going straight in behind Paltula. Any braking point you can miss, I can miss better. And in the end, they both stayed on, and I don't think Tom Ferrier gained anything from that. Well, no noticeable mistakes yet by the race leaders. Heisman and Cox, Seaman there in third place. Oh, Bouvier a long way back now. Still these front runners a long, long way forward. And the split screen Top left is Duncan, bottom right is Peter's view. So you can compare and contrast their lines through the circuit. Watch Duncan go through one corner and then watch Peter at the same spot. Nice, maybe something we ought to introduce for Super Pole. And yes, I have tried suggesting it. So Duncan Heisman then leading, and there you can see his car from Peter Cox's view. Notice how much more squirrely it looks from Peter Cox's view than it does from onboard Heisman, of course, because it's the back end moving more rather than the front ends, and that tends to be more visible rather than affecting the way your eye works. Oh, and one of the Edenbridge cars is slowing, and I think that is James Hansen's machine, number 10. No, it's not, in fact, it's Tom Ferrier, number 11. I was suspecting it might have been James because he went bouncing across the grass earlier on. Oh, and it was Boovy. That's why he's disappeared from 4th place, because he's in the pits. So a glimpse of somebody coming into the pits earlier, and it was obviously Frederick Boovy. Well, engine temperature problems striking his Carly Motorsport machine. The 3 Carly Motorsport engines ahead of him doing well. 1 in a Carly entered car and 2 in the Ravaglia entered cars, which are 2nd and 3rd. So after 5 laps, still less than half a second between Heisman and Cox. Seaman right there. Anderson and Rustad close together and leading at Morbidelli and Ruberti, the 2 CBME drivers. Whoa, and a big slide there from Heisman, asking a little of his tyres that they weren't prepared or able to give, and Cox is lining him up here, but Heisman defending hard, just about had enough in hand, and using all of the runoff area on the outside to keep the car in front. Well, it's getting close, isn't it, between these two? On lap 6 of this race. And Heisman possibly in tyre trouble. Well, let's see, on board, let's watch the top picture, keep a weather eye on the bottom one. Let's see how it looks from on board with Heisman. Not too much oversteer at all there, no opposite lock. So nicely controlled. If it was sliding a little, it was sliding 4 square, which is marvellous, in my opinion. Drivers might not like it, but I love it. So Heisman leading then, Cox in 2nd. And Duncan, that little wake-up call, I'm sure he was aware of the state of his tyres, but now he'll be doubly aware and get his head down and charging to try and stay away from Peter Cox. Norman Seaman closing in on the pair of them, now only 1.4 off the lead, so just 1 second behind Cox. Heisman, Cox and Seaman. Anderson, Rustad and Morbidelli in their own little battle. 4th, 5th and 6th. Stay with us, we'll be back with more in a second. Welcome back to Zolder. Duncan Heisman leading round 5 of the Euro Super Production Championship. And we are in lap 8 of the race. Duncan Heisman still leading. Peter Cox, Norman Seaman, 2nd and 3rd positions. And behind them there was a big gap to the battle between Pegan Anderson 4th, Tommy Rustad 5th, and Gianni Morbidelli in 6th position. Rustad has gone off the track, and Paolo Ruberti right with Gianni Morbidelli. You just saw Rustad behind. The 2 CBM drivers, like the 2 Edenbridge cars, equally paced, but not on the pace of much else. And so these 2 guys now, unfortunately, restricted to inter-Nissan battling rather than getting in amongst the front runners. And Pegan Anderson, who reckons he knows the track quite well. Pegan Anderson, having raced several times at the Zolder circuit in the past, in various Franco-Belgian kind of touring car championships. In fact, Pegan reckons to have raced here in European, German and Belgian touring car championships. Frederick Boovy, of course, already retired in the pits with overheating problems, the only Belgian in the championship. this weekend. There'll be a different Belgian championship next weekend in that Carly Motorsport car. So Heisman leading then. And the two Ravaglia Motorsport cars behind him in line astern. And Heisman having almost allowed the car to get too far away from him and allowing Peter Cox to get within shouting distance of making a move for the lead. About 6 laps in, has now eased gradually away from the #1 machine. So when for Cox, I wonder, does it start to become a case of, okay, well, Norman Seaman's not going to get past me, but I may have to forget about Duncan Heisman for this race and try again next time out at the Hungaroring. Not yet for certain. These are quite reasonable length races, the Super Prod races. There is a chance for somebody to really wear their tyres or brakes in the late stages and an unconvincing margin suddenly become a convincing one as you either ease away from them or close right up on them. I'm sure Cox will be doing his very best to preserve the machinery. With these high-profile tyres, I mean, although the car sits low on the wheel arches, believe me, if you put these tyres on your road car, they'd look like you had some nice tyres on, but they wouldn't look like you had big super elastic band slicky stickies on by any stretch of the imagination. You can get much fatter, lower profile tyres for your car than these guys race on, and that's why they slide around so much. Paolo Ruberti off, challenging Gianni Morbidelli, no doubt, the CBME driver in the trim BMW. Looks like that'll be the end of it for him. On board with Cox again, using all the curbs through the chicanes, the prescribed manner. Onto the start-finish they come, and Heisman still ahead. So 11 laps in, Heisman leading from Cox and Seaman in 3rd place. Anderson 4th, a long way back, Morbidelli in 5th place. In fact, Morbidelli closer and closer to the tail of Pegg and Anderson with every lap, and almost at the point now where he is ready to make a move. Again, the onboard cameras allowing us to watch the progress of the leaders and compare and contrast their styles through there. Not too much drama, but we've seen through the chicanes, the cars do get pretty squirrely. Norman Seaman there, 3rd place, no onboard camera for him. But I bet he's getting a darn good view of exactly what Peter Cox's car will and won't do for him. And at this stage in the season, I'm sure there is no reason at all why Norman Seaman would feel bound to stay behind Peter Cox. Pegg and Anderson then, 4th spot, and didn't I tell you Gianni Morbidelli was getting much, much closer? Here he is, headlights ablaze. Like Peggan has failed to notice the approach of the black and orange CBME machine, but any little bit of glinting light in the rearview mirror is always helpful to try and distract a driver in front of you. It's one of those little gamesmanship tricks that drivers use. One of those things where you use the Terry Thomas approach. Never assume that the other fellow may have the same intellect as yourself. He may be smarter. Well, in this case, Morbidelli doesn't need to use wily trickery. He uses a good out-braking manoeuvre to get past Pegg and Anderson. Lined him up and made the move, and Anderson wasn't going to try and defend it right in the middle of the chicane there and risk a car-damaging clash. And Seaman now ahead of Cox. I told you he wouldn't feel compelled to sit behind. Right, here's the replay from onboard Cox. Well, I was going to say, into the chicane we go. Let's see how sideways he gets, but he doesn't. Norman Seaman came past him, presumably after Cox got sideways out of the previous chicane, and Seaman got a run on him on the straight in between those two sets of corners. Seaman with the indicators on, having obviously done a bit of wheel twirling to get onto the tail of Cox and then past him. Oh, and Seaman kicks up the dirt. And there you go. And I imagine it was a very similar moment to that allowed Peter Cox to go by. Now, I don't think in all honesty, that Siemens indicator is on, because he's saying to Norman, to Peter Cox, right, you can come by when you like. I think he's flicked it on while twirling the wheel and hasn't even noticed it's on. After all, with a loud race car and the blood pumping, you can't imagine here a little indicator going tick, 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 tick. Oh, and Gianni Morbidelli pulls off the road in the CBME BMW. Well, we've just seen him take 4th place from Pegan Anderson. A lap after his teammate Paolo Roberti pulls off, so too does Morbidelli. And Tommy Rustad pulling off into the pits as well. Well. So, Duncan Heisman leads. And as they were 2 laps ago, so they are again down here. Cox in front of Seaman. You wouldn't think that Norman had got ahead of his teammate Peter. So look at them now, because it's exactly status quo, but a mistake by one allowed the other through, and then he made the mistake to revert back to square one. And the only unchangeable so far has been that despite his one mistake early on, Heisman is still out front and 2 seconds clear of the Ravaglia drivers now. And this will be a very big boost indeed to the Carly Motorsport driver. Started the season behind the Ravaglia cars. At Brno he was between them. Ditto at Magny-Cours, and then he was, well, in amongst him and Peter Cox. Right on the front running pace. Win there. And with the last lap now, a win here definitely on the cards. Heisman leads from Cox, Norman Seaman in 3rd, Pegan Anderson 4th, Tobia Massini in 5th place, and James Hansen in 6th in the Edenbridge car. Such has been the rate of drivers' attrition, or car attrition more like. Last lap then, as Heisman leads them round, and as they came across the line for the last time, or penultimate time, onto the last lap, Marcus Paltela, the Finn, has got past James Hansen for 6th position. And again, Heisman over the curbs, Cox likewise. Shadows starting to lengthen across the Zolder track. And less than half a lap to go now for Heisman. Cox is closing, Heisman sliding. 2nd and a bit between them now, maybe half what the gap was at the beginning of the lap, maybe a bit more than half what the gap was. But Cox is closing, last lap and all. Is this going to be a repeat of the FIA GT race result, where it was side by side out of the final corner? I don't think it is. I think Heisman's got enough in hand to hold on to this one, to take victory at Zolder. Well, all the BMW teams leaning over the pit wall, apart from CBME, whose drivers are out. Heisman comes out of the final corner though. Checkered flag awaits. The gap won't be much ahead of Peter Cox, but it doesn't matter because it's a gap, and Heisman wins. Cox 2nd, Seaman in 3rd place. The championship leader extends his advantage. Duncan Heisman came here leading by 2 points, and he has built on that. So Heisman in the driving seat as they go for their mid-season break. In Super Racing Weekend terms, at least, the Carly Motorsport men win again. And Roberto Ravaglia's squad taking the other 2 podium places with their 2 entries. Both CBME cars out, and a whole host of others as well. So there's the final result then. Marcus Paltela in the Honda Integra R joined in the championship and getting into 6th place in his first race at the expense of James Hansen in 7th spot. But it's Heisman, Cox and Seaman on the podium. Well, let's catch up now with our winner, Duncan Heisman.
Duncan, many congratulations. I know you've been feeling confident all weekend. It showed, I think, at the beginning of the race. That was a great start that you got off to there.
I had a really great start, but I practiced it a few times this weekend. And but I was hit from behind on my right rear wheel. But my start was really great, and that was the advantage, I think. After 3 or 4 laps, Peter was catching me. The car was sliding for just 2 laps.
and then I saw his car started to slide as well, and then I could 2/3 of a second walk away. It was okay.
Thank you, Duncan.
Well, Duncan keeping a new set of tyres after qualifying for the race, worrying that grip would be at a premium, as indeed it was. Peter Cox saying, rather cards close to the chest style, that he was trying a new strategy this weekend. Not sure what it was, but he may go back to the old strategy of leading from pole and winning, if he can, when they get to the Hungaroring in July. So that is our next call, just outside of Budapest. And as the Dutch national anthem rings out, it's a very happy Duncan Huisman. So that's it from Zolder. We've had drama in all of our races and an absolutely nail-biting conclusion to the FIA GT event. Well, fantastic stuff from another sunny racing weekend, thank goodness. We'll be back on June the 30th and July the 1st from the Hungaroring. Of course, you can see the highlights later on tomorrow at 11 AM, and we'll be bringing you our magazine show on Wednesday evening, so stay with us from that. Meanwhile, from me, Martin Haven, it's thank you very much indeed for watching. We'll see you next time out. Bye for now.
Maybe it's the last chance to get the last dance. I know it's you, baby, because you drive me crazy. The way that you're dancing has caused a chain reaction. I know that you want me because your body told me there just ain't nothing left for me to do. I got to be with you, and I come over, yeah. Can't you feel the vibe is right for us to get it on tonight? Stop wasting time. Maybe it's the last chance to get the last dance.
The Eurosport Super Racing Weekend.